It's done unto you as you believe. It's done unto you as you believe. I'm gonna get there, yes somehow. Push my way through the crowd. I'm gonna grab you by the hand to a place we will stand. Stand around, no fear, yes clear. I believe in you. I believe in me. Oh yeah, I believe that we can make this dream a reality. Yeah, yeah. Now's the time to be. Now's the time for miracles. Oh, it's in my heart so deep. 'Cause
I believe, yes. Welcome to Patrick Henderson's Meet the People on WOLB 1010 Baltimore. Hello, Baltimore. How y'all doing today? Nice day, huh? It's going to get hotter, but it's nice now. I tell you, I'm just happy to be alive. I don't know about you. If you looked out there this morning, you wore your eyes opened up and you look and you saw another day. And if you said, thank you. Thank you to the God that gives us breath. That ain't no religion. It's just a spiritual connection to God and to all of us. Welcome here on Patrick Henderson's Meet the People. It seems everybody's running a little late, but I got my co-producer here, Jason Rodriguez. Say hello to everybody.
Good morning, family. Good morning, Baltimore.
Yes. The city is hot. There are a lot of things going on. It's hot in more than one way. And we've got a great show planned for you today. At the top of our agenda is the controversy surrounding the measure that our president of the city council, Jack Young, is proposing about gun control. There are a lot of opinions about it. A lot of things I didn't know were happening. Like I thought that if you were caught with a gun, automatically you had to go. You were sent to jail for it. And but come to find out that it's a misdemeanor in the city. Is that true, Jason?
Yes. But again, it also depends on how the gun is being charged in the crime.
Mm-hmm.
Again, because there's a difference between a misdemeanor act, a felony act,
Mm-hmm.
an act of crime with a gun. There's different ways that you would be charged.
Would be charged for it.
But just a standard possession of a gun, if you're caught in the street, necessarily not in the act of a crime, is a misdemeanor in Baltimore.
Is a misdemeanor. And what if you have no priors? If there's no other record of you being involved with a gun, does that come into play?
Well, Maryland does have a statute that continues if you're a repeat offender. Mm-hmm. And again, it also depends on how the gun is used. Again, we do have a repeat policy. So if you do repeat a handgun violation, you could be charged on other acts, and you could be charged as a felony. And again, depending on how the gun is used, and you could be charged federally. It's not uncommon for us to use Project Exile, but for some reason Baltimore hasn't used Project Exile in a long time.
And it is in play. I was reading about Project Exile, and we're going to talk about that because Richmond has utilized it, and it seems though you hear that. Okay, I'm going to kill his pot right now because I heard that too. So you're going to give him another microphone.
But we used to use Project Exile all the time. So.
Go ahead, talk now.
We used to use Project.
Much better.
We used to use Project Exile all the time, so that was a common practice. So
really,
especially with State's Attorney Patricia Jessamy's administration, they definitely used the Project Exile. I remember we used to have the billboards around Baltimore City. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I do remember.
Billboards around Baltimore City.
Were they effective? Did it do anything to deter?
So again, it really depends on the crime, and again, the state used it as, for certain cases. If there was that particular case where you really wanted to take somebody out of the neighborhood and send them out of the state to send a message, you would you exercise that federal authority and petition the federal authorities to be able to use that statute, that law. But again, we for some reason have gone away from that on violent offenders for some reason. And again, we should be exercising that whenever possible, using all of our tools, whether it's state, federal, to be able to prosecute somebody if there is a gun violation.
If there is.
Correct.
Hello, Wayno Amon-Ra.
What it do, family?
Leo Burrows, are you there, sir?
Yes, indeed. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition for justice, decency, and fair play.
Excuse me. Amen to that. And then pass the ammunition. I tell you what, you need to, well, I ain't going to go there. I'll be nice today about the ammunition. But words are ammunition. Actions are ammunition. It doesn't always mean a bullet. It also means an effective way of dealing with things, the ammunition with information. We also have with us today, would you introduce our guest? I would like to introduce our guest. Can we put him on? Let's put Leo on hold. On lock. And then I'm going to introduce Jason. Tell us who this gentleman is.
Family, joining us this morning, we have Lester Davis, Chief of Staff for Councilman Bernard Jack Young, our Council President Jack Young's office, on the line with us. Good morning, Mr. Davis.
Good morning. Hi. Thank you for having me. And just one correction, I appreciate the upgrade, but I'm actually the Deputy Chief of Staff.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I appreciate you upgrading me, though. Thank you.
If you could just write a little extra check in there for you to get paid for that, you would do it.
From your mouth to the Creator's ears.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate the President of the City Council appropriating your time to be with us. As you well know, the city is just, what is the word I want to use? We're ripe. We're rife with uncertainty about what we're going to do about the violence in our city. And there are those who applaud the president of the city council for this legislation, for this move of action, and then there are those that are critical of it. I heard one read something the other day where a person was saying that they understand why he wants to do that, but what happens if the police come to somebody's house and a gun is there and the person who owns that gun is not there? Then the person in that house gets charged with that, and they had nothing to do with it. We're looking at the safeguards. We understand. I had no idea that it was a misdemeanor to be caught. I thought if you get caught with a gun in Baltimore, it was automatically 3 to 4 years of imprisonment. But to find out that it's a misdemeanor unless there are extenuating circumstances was a little bit shocking to me, considering the involvement of firearms or weapons in killing innocent people. You want to talk to us about that?
Yeah, sure. I'd be more than happy to, and I appreciate, again, you extending the opportunity. A couple things. One, the bill, which the president obviously supports, is a bill that's coming from the administration. So it's really a mayor/police, Baltimore police bill. And because of the way that the legislative process works, the mayor not being a member of the legislative body, any bills that come from the administration are introduced on their behalf by the president of the city council, so by the head of the city council. So it's an administration bill, but an administration bill that the president supports. And then another important factor, I know you just gave a scenario where someone in their home, one important thing to point out is that this bill only relates to people who carry a gun illegally on their person. So if you're in your home, this bill does not apply to you. It's only if you carry it on your person, and more specifically, if you carry it on your person and you're within within 100 yards of one of those identifiable zones. So
tell us what those zones are.
So they're about
I know
Five
church.
of them. There's public park, a church, school, public buildings. So think, any city hall, state building, and any other places where, there'd be a public assembly. So this is really talking about a public gathering. And you may remember we've had a couple instances where, I think on basketball courts and things like that, we had some mass shootings recently this year where, several folks get hit with bullets. Young people, primarily gunfire breaks out. So I think that's why they were put into that legislation. But this does not target folks who have a gun registered, and it also does not target folks who have a gun in the home.
Ah, well, that's very good to know. Go ahead, Jason.
Mr. Davis, I just, what do you think about those that are saying, like, for instance, Councilwoman Mary Pat Clark talking about those that may be victimized, like some of our seniors that may not necessarily go out and get a permit for a weapon, but may have a weapon. I could tell you that, and I'll testify to that right here on the air, and whatever it is may be. But it was a gun that saved my life on Mother's Day at my business in Dolefield. So because I was robbed on Dolefield at a business on Dolefield. But what do you say about those that, again, that may not necessarily be able to get a carry permit, but again, just really don't want to walk around these streets? My grandma, my grandpa, want to walk around the streets unprotected. And again, the criminals are out here with guns.
So yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, I think one thing to keep in mind and to remember is that right now, today, carrying a gun around that's not registered is illegal, and you can get arrested for that, and you will get charged for that. I think the only difference is that there would be a mandatory minimum. So in those instances and in those scenarios where you have, whether it's a senior citizen or you have someone else who is really trying to protect themselves, is not trying to be a danger to the broader public safety, the prosecutors, the police that are on the front line, and then the prosecutors that come after, they're the entities that are charged with sifting through that information, and that individual, that person, likely is not going to get charged. Similar to what would happen, today, for instance, if someone were stopped with a handgun, that still is an illegal act. That they still are breaking the law, but we don't see instances of senior citizens or business owners who are just trying to protect their businesses being charged. So that is not going to happen once you put the mandatory minimum in place.
But what happens again if Grandpa Joe and Grandma Annie get caught up in the process? Are you expecting them to do the 1-year minimum sentencing, or again? I mean, we're actually looking at 5 years, because again, that's the law that the city council really wants to push, and the mayor wants to push to Annapolis.
Right. So what we're looking at is 1 year, because we don't have the 5 year yet. So for the 1 year, is the scenario that you just laid out, the individual who's sounds to me to be an upstanding citizen and is not looking to endanger the greater public good, that individual would not be charged, similar to what we have right now. So keep in mind that individual that you're describing, it's illegal for him or her to have a gun today, yesterday, tomorrow, because that's the law that's on the books right now. We're not changing that law. The only thing is instituting a mandatory minimum. Now, there's prosecutorial discretion that's used all the time, where a prosecutor looks at a particular situation and says, takes into account intent, takes into account what the individual's, status is in the community, and whether or not they really were looking to harm someone, or whether they were really just trying to protect themselves in terms of self-defense.
Patrick?
Yes.
Sorry?
May I ask a question or engage?
Yes, please do so.
Okay. Brother Lester Davis, Leo Burroughs, how you doing?
Yes, sir. I'm doing well, Mr. Burroughs. How are you?
Okay. My concern is, and I understand what President Young is trying to do, but my concern is I would hope that he will do it in the context of advocating regional and national responses to gun control. Mm-hmm. And you may say, well, he's president of city council, he's got nothing to do with the national. Well, I feel like all these political leaders know other political leaders, Paul Sarbanes, Elijah Cummings, the whole 9 yards. Why aren't we talking about it in the context also of the fact that Baltimore doesn't have a wall around it? The city has no wall around it. And as such, people bring guns in. What I'm trying to say, they're coming from everywhere, Harford County, Virginia. Why aren't we advocating or saying to our national leaders that you have to go after the National Rifle Association, you have to go at the systemic causes of violence and the crimes that are rooted in our society. I'm still upset about, and you say it's far-fetched, but I'm still upset about Port Covington and the fact we gave them all that money, and I still don't know what's going on with respect to apprenticeship programs and the response therein, because it all factors into the equation of violence and guns and drugs, and we can't account for, no one can account for what happens to the drugs when they're seized, and we can go on. So I don't want to get too far afield, but aren't we going to arrest people who sell illegal guns as well as purchasing them or having them in their possession? I don't think my conclusion is this is not comprehensive enough. We're not saying enough in totality to deal with the problem of Baltimore City singularly, understanding that whatever happens in Baltimore, the problems we have here we're surrounded by all of the avenues that make for a detrimental situation for our
accessibility. Absolutely. Yes, sir, Mr. Davis. What do you say about that?
So, yeah, I think Mr. Barrows raises a very valid and very strong point. I mean, I think that has been a lot of the discussion points in terms of, making sure that you make that argument to the federal folks. I think that what folks in Baltimore City look to do is what, can we do locally? We've gone to the state a number of years, have not really had any success in that avenue, and so what can we do locally? I think this also is similar to a lot of the discussion and conversation around the mandatory 1 year for folks carrying a gun, where what we're looking to do is get the most dangerous individuals off the street, but also recognizing that we want to help folks who have been shut out of the economic process, make sure we get them jobs and reentry. We also want to make sure that where drugs, whether you're selling or using, where they come in and where they're concerned, that's a public health crisis, and that's not a criminal act. So it's not looking to shift back to this tough on crime mantra. Quite the contrary. I mean, the president is clear. Tough on crime status, tough on crime positions do not work and have been more detrimental, particularly to communities of color. What we're talking about is the folks who are looking to use a gun and to devastate and take a life. Murder is the ultimate thing that there's no coming back from. You can't shoot someone, kill them, and then you go and change your mind.
Them, and they're not posted anywhere. I interviewed Commissioner Davis at Larry Young's that we would at those times would be posted, and they're not posted. And Leo just brought up a point. Up in Federal Hill and those places, they got cops on the street. We just had a murder with Warren Brown's stepson from at Garrison and Liberty, and we had been asking. I've talked to Captain Yerg, who is over the Northwest District, there, the Western District. Talked with Commissioner Davis about putting a policeman up there because there was an open air drug market. I also spoke to them about the one that's going on Doefield and Cold Spring, and they didn't send any police to do either one. Well, now since Warren Brown's stepson was killed, there's a policeman sitting up there at that BP station 24/7. Why do we have to die when we see the problem? Because we live in the neighborhoods, and when we was telling you this is going on right down here in Doefield too, the same thing. In fact, I'm watching all those people that used to be at the BP station because I work at Liberty Elementary School. I know their faces because they're standing there every day. Now they're coming down to Doefield because the police at the BP station are keeping them from standing there with their market. What have we, the people, got to do? Why can't they post the response times for all communities so we can see what's going on? Because they seem to be more interested in, they say, in catching the criminals and not protecting us people who have to live in our communities where we pay exorbitant taxes. So what can you help us with this? Is there anything that you can tell us that you would do? I spoke with Sandy Rosenberg the other day at the meeting that Kim Trueheart had at Liberty Rec, and he said he was going to look into it and see what he could do to help us. We feel like we're sitting targets. We've gotten this money from the city to refurbish Dolefield, and people can't come into the pharmacy, the elderly people, because they're scared they're going to get hit in the head. People don't want to come down there because these people are standing around selling opioids on the sidewalk, not trying to do it discreetly, telling people that they're doing it, going up and buying people. So all they got to do is just come there, sit and say, keep it moving. We have loitering laws, but we also have to stand up for our communities. What are you guys going to do to help us to do that? I understand this gun thing is very important and it has far-reaching implications in its needs for to be resolved. But how can we just live, sir, and not live in fear of our lives and our safety being jeopardized because the police are telling us they're busy, but it takes them 40 minutes to get to us when we call them, and our houses are being robbed and our people are being beaten in the process, and we're sitting there watching and they get there 40 minutes later. What do you suggest we do?
So keep in mind, Mr. Henderson, that I think rightly so, this particular piece of legislation with the mandatory minimum has gotten a lot of attention. Obviously, you talk about putting in place a mandatory minimum, it should get a lot of scrutiny and it should get a lot of attention. I think not so much has been focused on a lot of the pre-work that goes into making sure that folks have opportunities and beefing up things. So you talked about apprenticeship programs before. One of the things that the president stresses is a huge annoyance for him is that we funnel a lot of money to apprenticeship programs or training programs that don't have jobs at the end of them. Right. So a young person spends their time and energy going to a training program for 3 months, 6 months, however long, and at the end of the time, they're given a sheet with some possible places where they can go look to find a job and not much more. Right. And word gets out, so word of mouth travels, and so someone will say, I did that program. I spent 6 months. They didn't have a job for me. It discourages other folks from coming on board. So what we have to do, and we've had some of these conversations with the state folks, with the governor, because keep in mind, you need money for these programs, and the city of Baltimore is lacking in that area. And so one of the things we've talked about is how do you create apprenticeship programs with actual jobs at the end. We know that there are companies in the city of Baltimore who want workers. Not everybody is going to go to college. And so what we've said is, if an entity that constitute major employers, big employers in the city of Baltimore, if they have needs, whether you're talking about BGE, whether you're talking about some of the other entities, give us the curriculum. We'll work with Baltimore City Public Schools so that those folks can get that curriculum as they're coming through the pipeline, and they can have a ready-made workforce that's ready to come work for them. They don't have to then take a chance on some young person and then have to teach them their curriculum. They've already been getting that curriculum throughout the high school years, and so when they come on board, they're ahead of the game and ready to go. And so I think that a lot of that does not get the attention, but that's stuff that Jack has been focused on, boosting money for young people to make sure that they have opportunities. I mean, we just went through a huge budget fight. We're in danger of losing over $3 million for the summer programs. So we were saying to young people, we're not going to give you a place to go and to have an active, positive outlet. You just go out on the street, and then what happens? They go out on the street, young people, because if they don't have anything positive to engage in, like anybody, they're going to be susceptible to getting involved.
Sure, going right back. No, we hear you, and we've been working with. We hear Wayne. You can attest to this. There is a construction company.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to speak on. The thing is that there are folks who are willing to work together with our community. To teach them while they're being educated. The thing is we got a partnership with M. Louise. We're in the process of opening a resource center because they promise, to hire 90% of the guys to get certified in bricklaying, flaggers.
And you know what I mean? Teach them how to do it.
And we'll teach them how to do it. We're also being able to bring in the folks who are licensed and bonded get the city to pay them for their time to teach these young folks. You know what I'm saying? The trades, because it's senseless for us to try to put them in a job that they're not trained for. And we found out, and brother, everybody sitting here, you know what I mean, Jason Rodriguez, to tell you from the folks that we've sent over to Metro PCS to try to get a job, that were fearful of working there because of the fact that they're fearful of working in technology, working with the cell phones and working, you know what I mean?
Because they might not be able to
I say my boy Jason hiring up there at the store, they say, man, I don't know how I work if I can't work my own phone. You know what I'm saying? So, we outside of that, we need these soft skill trainings. We need folks that need to know how to talk to people, customer service, your hygiene, you know what I mean, the way that you dress, you know what I mean, and there are programs that are working, but it seems like the money is getting drained because of the fact that we constantly putting money into these failing programs, because this is my cousin's nephew's daughter's program, this is my homeboy who went to college with me program, so it's this favoritism
the
thing.
Family league, right here in Baltimore, they're getting what, $600,000
to pack food, store it overnight to be served the next day in coolers. You see what I'm saying? So it's like all of these companies that are failing us are still on the books. You know what I mean? When is it going to be a day or something we can just drop all of them? Something. You know what I mean? Because it's really hurting us. It's really hurting our communities.
As PFK Boom said, the ones that are actually on the field, the ones that are actually working, they can't get arrested. And I don't mean that figuratively either. They can't get any help. And they're doing things like they're feeding people. They're constantly talking to these young guys on the streets. Miss Christina Flowers with her homeless program, she can't get money. It seems like the ones that have got their feet to the ground don't seem to be the ones that are being appropriated with the funding, and that's a problem, because not only do they get discouraged, but they lose hope. And when they lose hope, it not only diminishes their passion, but the people suffer because of it. I'm going to go to Smitty, welcome to Patrick Henderson's Meet the People. You've been holding a long time. You have a question or comment?
Yeah, I have a question. One of the things I can't understand is that why can't we target these people who are bringing illegal guns in? Why haven't they drafted legislation to make it a mandatory sentence for them? We had a guy in the Henderson market that had a tater chip little boy. I'm 70 years old. Nothing has been changed in these communities. Park Heights is the same way. When are we going to learn some sense and get up off a full job and shucking and not doing the right thing to protect our people in this city? It's appalling.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Did you want to address that, Mr. Davis?
No, from what I could hear, I mean, it was difficult. He was very low. I'm not sure if the mic was off, but no, I mean, he made some great points. I mean, obviously, as it relates to folks who are bringing firearms in, that takes coordination with the surrounding jurisdictions, of which should be going on. I think work is being done in that area, because some folks who may be bringing guns in, they may not necessarily enter into your border or into your jurisdiction. They may bring the guns right on the edge, and then they kind of flood in. So I think that's looking at folks that are in the surrounding areas, and then also I think as far away as D.C. and just having those good relationships so that you can share intelligence and share information and try to get these folks.
It's interesting. Did you just read? Did you just see where the BWI, all these guns that they're finding in shipments?
That's right.
Did y'all see that?
It's gone through the roof.
It's gone through the roof.
I mean, look, bro, out on the real side, just on boots on the ground side, like we don't even have to go that far. These little addicts that you know that are not from our community, when you see these white addicts strung out on the corner, strung out in our neighborhoods, you know what I mean? They are the ones that are banging the guns. I'm telling you, because I was one of the brothers that grew up on Edgewood, and it was addicts that came through all the time with guns. You see what I'm saying? So, I'm not, we ain't got to go far as to just shipments and all that. Y'all see them standing around our corners. And you know what the police do when they see them? They walk up to them and they tell them to go home or go back wherever they came from. They don't lock them up. They, you know what I'm saying? And the thing is that a lot of the crime, you know what I mean, the breaking and entering and the robberies have been happening on the hands of these white drug gangs. And they have been caught doing it, and the police dust them off and send them back to where they come from. Right down Dofield, the same center that we talking about opening. Do you know that it was broken into? And from the street cameras, everybody thought it was one of the black drug addicts, one of the winos, or you know what I mean. When the inside camera saw his face up close, and it was a white man. You see what I'm saying? You ever heard of the site called Next Door? One of those apps You know what I mean? The neighborhood community apps where your whole community is passing information. Over in Dofield, there have been 3 or 4 show up. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, at the end of the day, Baltimore City and the folks in this city are still catching, you know, being taken advantage of. You know, statistically, we're the ones that it says that with these jobs that live in the county, they're not paying no taxes for this stuff. They not, you know what I mean? They get half going on. Nobody is really speaking on. Nobody out here. We talk about racism. We talk about systemic sexism and thisism. Why are the folks at the city council talking about legislation to the folks who are impacted by the violence, that are impacted by the pain, that are impacted by all? I don't understand the logic. It's like Brother Smitty said. Why are there more laws coming down on these folks that are bringing this stuff in? Why are their tolls aren't higher for the folks that work in the county, that work in the city? I mean, live in the county, work in the city. Yeah. It's like it makes it so much easier for everybody else to come here and live and get up. You know what I mean?
It seems that, and I read an article.
I know I said a lot just now, bro. But
talking about that, and it was talking about, it seems in urban neighborhoods that the people are taxed. The black people are taxed with crimes and things like speed cameras and stuff like that, and excessive water bills and heavy penalties for them in black neighborhoods.
Yes,
I'm not going to get off on the subject. I'm going to go to Oscar. Oscar, welcome to Patrick Henderson's Meet the People. You have a question or comment?
Yes, I do. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Davis, first of all, I have a problem with this law proposed because it's not uniform. It's not uniform. Because if you're caught in Roland Park, Homeland, with an illegal gun, the sentence is not mandatory. But if you're caught in West Baltimore by a school or church, then it's mandatory. Well, first of all, I think if anybody take that to the Supreme Court, it's going to be ruled illegal, unconstitutional anyway, because it's discriminatory.
So can you tell me, and I want to jump in and ask this because I don't want you to get away before I get a chance to ask it.
But if you're caught on Poplar Grove Street with an illegal gun, then it's mandatory. That makes no sense. If you're not going to take it across the board, then it's absolutely it's unfair. But what's getting me, I'm hearing too many black people calling and talking about they don't want to be charged with an illegal gun because they're afraid they're going to go out in the street. If the children are shooting each other, what are they saying? They want to be the ones to shoot the children? I mean, let's get a real about this gun culture in this country. Let's go after anybody with an illegal gun. I'm not giving no... Look, I've been carrying a gun for the most of my adult life. And when I get... Every 3 years when I have to renew my permit to carry, I have to jump through all kind of hoops to get a right to carry a gun. And I've been carrying a gun, like I said, for the most of my adult life. Now, people that's the one to say, I'm going to arbitrate. I feel threatened, so I'm going to carry a gun. I'm going on the street. No, we shouldn't have that. It should be mandatory, not for the people on Poplar Grove, for everyone.
Yes, sir.
That's what I'm saying.
Let him respond, Oscar. Let him respond.
I keep telling you this, Pat.
Hold on for a minute. He wants to respond, and then I'm going to listen to your other question. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds here. Mr. Davis, you wanted to respond?
Well, I just wanted to double check because I wasn't quite sure where the caller got the information that there would be some discrepancy in where this is applied, because it's a citywide ordinance, so I'm not clear on why the caller thinks that it wouldn't be enforced in a certain area and maybe would be enforced in another.
Because of history. Because of us growing up right here in Baltimore City, we know that these mandatory sentences only benefit a selected group of people.
Right, and the ones that get picked up and get charged usually would be the folks from our community. Not
right, so I understand that. Right. And
Oscar?
I understand institutional racism, which is true. I guess I'm just trying to figure out if there was something in the ordinance.
Okay, go ahead, Oscar.
No, he's not. When officers get their calls, there's something called the officer's activity sheet. Everything that he does in a day on his shift goes on that sheet. If he get a call for people standing on the corner, they're going to give him a time and number. The time he got to call and a CC number, which is the central complaint number. All you got to go to any district, any of the 9 districts, just pick up run sheets. You'll see when they got the time. That's all. Over when they got the time and number when they got to call. It's not. I told you before. It's not when they get the call. It's when the dispatcher gets the call and dispatch it to the officer on the beat. So
Oscar,
you can easily find out what time.
Oscar,
I don't know why David say he can't find out about the time. He should be. He's a
I know. And why should we have to go look for it?
We're not talking about times. We're talking about, yes, and in certain cases when we did go out and find the times, like Ms. Cunningham, who's the president of the Association for Irvington, they came back, the majors and commanders came back with an 8-minute response time when we know that was a bald-faced lie because she was in the house for 40 minutes with the person that made the original call.
Well, they should do something with the officer.
Right, but Oscar, we're not talking about individual calls. We're saying that what we're asking for, what we feel should be mandatory by now in this city, is that there should be a response time that's documented. Hold on. It's documented.
If you on your post, you got 3 minutes to get to the call.
Hold him. Let him finish, Oscar.
Like to the Public Safety Committee, present it to them like they present the policing plan that says exactly what the response times are based on neighborhoods, and we should do it annually. So that this way we get a true, accurate count as to what our officers are doing, how long it's taking them to get to Roland Park versus Irvington versus Dolefield versus Ashburton.
Is Mr. Davis a council person?
No, he's assistant to the president, Jack Young.
Oh, okay, Mr. Davis. Well, I'm saying this to you. All you have to do, sir, is go to any of the 9 districts. Tell the commander of that district, I want to see your officers' run sheets. That's all. And there's no way in the world I can get a call and respond when I want to in 40 minutes and get away with that. Can't be done.
Oscar, are you aware that there's 21 other cities that document and report response times annually? Are you aware of that? Are you aware that there's 21 other cities?
I can't hear you well.
I said, are you aware of that there's 21 plus other cities that actually give an annual response time every year? What is your objection to that? I just don't understand. Because you're saying that we should do due diligence.
He's not objecting to it.
Let me tell you this. If I'm working a post, and I'm an officer on the post, if I get a call at 12:27, and I don't get there to 1:27, I'm not going to stay a police officer long. So that what you're saying is that's not happening on a large scale. It's just not happening. It's not true.
Okay. You don't think that that there's a little bit of complicity there? Do you honestly believe that these people do what they say, they tell you they do, and then they do something? You don't think that's possible in the Baltimore Police Department?
How would it help the police commissioner or the commander of a district to let his officers respond an hour after they get a call for service and get away with it? How would it help him? That's going to be hard for him because that's people like yourself and other people are going to complain about.
Big brother Oscar, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you though. See, you came from a time when people had standards, brother. You know what I'm saying? I respect exactly what you're saying. I understand completely what you're saying. But me and Pat have been outside on the strip talking to brothers. The police have come up to us, but 5, 6 deep that time, have got a call for an armed robbery that we heard over all of their walkie-talkie. He said, "You gonna go over there? I'm not going over there. You going over there? I ain't going over there." We slid there, bro. I'm just God honest truth.
Yeah, we did.
Hey, Wayno.
Yes, sir.
You guys are from Dolefield. I worked that post.
Yes,
now,
sir.
I'm going to come up there. I would like to come there and meet you. I'm going to go up to a little store. It used to be a 7-Eleven, and when the police come. And I'm going to ask a police officer in your presence, tell me that they hear assault and robbery come out, and they say I'm not going to respond. Only way they say they're not going to respond because they didn't get the call. But if you get the call, you better respond.
We got them on film. We'll play you.
We got them on film,
so we don't have to. We'll get together.
We was talking to the brothers trying to get them off the streets, and here come the police. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's all on film.
It all went down. So
okay, one day I'll meet you guys.
all right, Lester.
Okay, bro.
Yes, Mr.
All right, peace.
Thank you, Oscar. Go ahead, Lester. What were you going to say, sir?
I just want to say to Mr. Davis that we expect that President Bernard Jack Young will provide us with a definitive report on the Port Covington job circumstance. In other words, $660 million in bonding was provided for that project, and we're hearing nothing as to progress being made, who's being hired, how many people are being hired. So the city is always saying they don't have any money. We don't have enough money. Well, all of your money, a lot of your money is tied up in Port Covington. It's time for an interim report. This is July. Where are we with Port Covington and the monies and the Baltimoreans United in Leadership Development, Bishop Miles and many others, where are we with Port Covington? That's more than a big elephant in the room.
Okay.
Where's the money? Where's the beef?
All right.
The job?
Leo, that's we're going to get to that on another. We're going to get on another show, but right now, Mr. Davis,
he want to respond.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Real quick, just to respond to Mr. Burrows. So no monies have actually been let. So the way that the TIF, the tax increment financing, works is that you have to. The taxpayer is not on the hook for any dollars. So the city of Baltimore is not on the hook for any money. The city of Baltimore has not spent any money. When the developer, in this case Port Covington, gets his ducks in a row and comes and wants to let some bonds so that the private sector can then buy those bonds, and then they can use the proceeds from those bonds to make their infrastructure builds, they'll do that. They haven't done that yet. So there's no money from the general fund, no money from taxpayer dollars, no dollars whatsoever. When you approve a tax increment financing bill, you're saying that I'm granting the authority for an entity to come and to sell bonds on the private sector, that folks will buy those bonds because they'll interest rate of return of a couple percent to up to 4% return, and they will sell those bonds. But the city has not advanced any dollars, and the developer has not received one red cent.
Have a nice day. I see nothing is going on. Have a great day.
Thank you, big brother.
I think that's a good thing right now, Leo, that nothing is going on. Hopefully we can make that last. All right, hold on, Mr. Davis. We're going to go to Nicole. Thank you so much. This is so important because the people to have this conversation. Nicole, will you have a question or comment, sweetheart?
I do. I have a question and a comment.
Come forward.
And I hope I'm allowed to ask. Hold it.
Come on. Your phone is going in and out.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So a few things, and I hope I'm able to get a couple of my points across because I've been holding for a really long time. So first, we heard at the NAACP conference over the weekend when this mandatory minimum sentence issue was discussed that, Attorney Ava White-Pettit clearly stated that this piece of legislation has some constitutional problems, right?
Wait a minute, hold on. Are you speaking on a speakerphone? If so, put it to your mouth. We'll get a better reception because you're kind of going in.
Can you hear me now? A little better?
Yeah.
There's still a little bit of a delay.
So what I was saying is at the NAACP conference, Attorney Ada White-Pettit clearly stated that in regards to this mandatory minimum legislation coming out of City Hall, that it has some constitutional problems. As an advocate in the community, I am hugely concerned about any legislation that takes away judiciary discretion, especially because this piece of legislation affects first-time offenders. And you all have been young before and know. I mean, dealing in this climate in Baltimore is dangerous. There's no jobs. Children are not getting the education they need. The grassroots organizations are not being funded the way they should be, and so many of these resources are not getting back to our young folks, which causes them to kind of be involved in some of these activities that we don't like, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so you have a young person, 16 years old, who feels threatened. I mean, we have. Do you know?
What? I'm going to ask you to come a little quicker with you have to come a little because we are, and everybody agrees that's the case.
Here's the issue. We caution against any legislation that takes judiciary discretion away. And how will this legislation protect us from the crooked cops? We have several officers who are being charged federally with planting guns on our men and women in the community. How are these people going to be protected from these crooked cops?
Yes. Mr. Davis, would you answer that?
Hold on. My last thing, because I got a couple of things to say, but my last thing is, listen, the city council has limited power as it is. Instead of them using their power to introduce legislation that mandates that any jobs that getting any employees that are getting any local funding, require them to make sure that they hire individuals in this city. Make some mandatory laws around that. Okay, make it mandatory. That
make a commuter tax so that we can get our roads. Thank you so much, sweetheart. That was some very thoughtful. Mr. Davis, she had some points there.
Yeah,
what would happen?
So here's one thing that I think often can be frustrating for legislators. So her last point, which I think was an excellent point that she made, when she talked about making it mandatory, using your power as a legislator to make it mandatory. And if somebody is getting money from the city government, that they hire folks who are from Baltimore City. We actually did that. So the president of the city council was the first person in the end of 2013 to put a local hire ordinance on the books. That measure went into effect around the end of 2013, beginning of 2014. And what it said was that if you're coming to the city of Baltimore and you're coming with your hand out to get a contract or to get some business, and we're the one who's writing the check. The taxpayer essentially is the one who's writing the check and who is the one who's fronting that bill. Then we have, legally speaking, some rights to guarantee that a majority of those new jobs go to Baltimore City residents. And that was something that we were told was unconstitutional. That was something that the previous city solicitor, the previous mayor, fought us on. We prevailed, and so that was a small step. We're looking at beefing that up and making that a larger point. But that was something that I think most folks aren't aware of, and so I think when things come up like this mandatory minimum piece, there's this assumption that the work has not been going on for a while on the back end to make sure that folks have an opportunity, and we're not just dropping a hammer on people, but that we're actually trying to make sure that people have an opportunity. And so that's I think a very good example of it. There is a local hire ordinance that was passed by the president of the city council just a couple years ago.
Then the mayor came in and said that that was all something that she wanted to reinforce. I'm going to keep going because the phones are just lit up here.
They look like just FYI, we got a city council meeting, the 12 o'clock lunch, which I stepped out for because I want to make sure this is important, and I want to make sure I'm available to your listeners.
Okay.
I just want to keep that in mind.
No, but I'm sorry, sweetheart. Before you go, I have a lady, Erica Bridgeford. She has a ceasefire plan and an organization. Just Erica, please. I'm sorry, sweetheart, and we just got to go.
It's an important issue. I have a lot to say about it. I was trying to be quiet so I wouldn't make that go longer. But so the Baltimore Cease Fire, it is not mine. I just want to be very clear about that. It is Baltimore residents have said we want 72 hours of peace. We are taking responsibility, each one of us in our neighborhoods, whatever crews we're associated with, whatever family members we know may be vulnerable to being involved in violence. We're having conversations to get commitments between one another that we are not going to participate in violence from August 4th to August 6th. Now, does that mean that it's okay to participate in violence on August 3rd and August 7th?
Right.
No. And we know that Baltimore is full of organizations that are doing the work to address root causes of violence every day. People have talked about a lot of those grassroots organizations here today in this conversation that you're having. So, and we know that if all of us stop doing the work that we do every day, the murder rate would be tripled. So we know that what we're doing on some level is actually working. It doesn't look like it. It feels really heartbreaking and disheartening. I have been seeing people die and going to funerals since I was 12 years old. I lost my brother in 2007. My other brother was shot and dead on arrival in 2001. He survived, all for us to lose our brother in 2007. I lost, my aunt had 3 sons and she lost 2 of them to violence. And so those are just the people I can think of off the top of my head.
Family.
But I have, that's my family is completely traumatized. And so we try to use that as a way of helping other people not have to go through the same pain that we will never recover from. So this is not about me. This is about you cannot throw a rock in Baltimore without hitting somebody who has been impacted by violence.
Yes,
period. So all of us are making a decision. This is something we're doing together. You will not see anybody's logo on any of the flyers. You will not see presented by any organization because it is us. It is all of us.
We the people.
We the people. And it's not just about not having violence that weekend. What are we doing that weekend? So we are doing life-affirming activities that weekend, whatever that means for you. So some people are doing small things like, I'm going to go visit my grandma because I haven't seen her. I have beef with too many people, so I'm just going to stay in the house that weekend. Or some people are doing much larger events.
The acknowledgement, the awareness of it, yes.
Yes, and so some people are putting together larger events. So Sister Nicole, who was just on the call, she's with Out for Justice. They're going to be doing, for example, spending the night overnight in one of the most violent neighborhoods in Baltimore. Shelley's Helping Hands is doing a peace rally on that Friday night. So there's churches all over the city are going to be doing things.
Really?
So like people are doing all kinds of things that weekend.
How can and I'm going to let you go, Mr. Davis. What can the city do? What can the president of the city council? What can they do so that we can really make this a massive and hopefully
because the goal is we don't want that weekend to come and there are too many people in Baltimore who say we didn't even know this was a thing.
Exactly.
So people have been coming to get flyers and posters. People have donated. The way we get the money for it is community members all over the country. If I'm really going to be real with you, are sending money to the Baltimore Cease Fire's PayPal. It's not connected to anybody's bank account, and so we just use that PayPal account to buy flyers and posters. So that's why you can see it popping up all over the city because everybody is getting involved in it. We have not purposely reached out to city government or police more than we've reached out to anybody else. We've spread the information. Why? Because we are aware that if it looks like, the mayor has called a ceasefire or the police department has called a ceasefire, that's going to have a different response from community members. So we're not excluding those entities.
But at the same time,
and it's really important that if city government is saying we support the ceasefire, we will help people get the word out and or whatever else they decide to do, because people don't need permission from us about how they want to get the word out. It is self-determination. How do you want to get the word out before that day? How are you going to make a commitment to be peaceful? What are you going to do that weekend?
Yes.
And Jason, if you can connect us offline. I know I've been in communication with Jason in the lead up to today. Would love to have this young lady and some of the other folks who are involved in that effort.
Absolutely.
Some of the elected officials here.
Yes.
All right.
You got it.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Did
you? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I got a lot of respect for that too.
Thank you.
It's relevant for now, but relevant to our future.
That's right. Yeah, and what's been beautiful about it is we have been doing street outreach. So it's not just like an online thing that's trending. Right. It is absolutely hopping out of my car and other people doing the same thing to roll up on drug strips and say, hey, you know about the Baltimore Cease Fire? You know about the Baltimore Peace Challenge?
Yes, ma'am. All right, and Mr. Davis has to go. That's the reason I'm stopping you, Daryl. We're going to talk further to you. But thank you, Erica.
No problem.
Thank you to Charlene Rock Foster and everybody that's involved that has been involved. She's on her way to Jamaica, so I ain't too happy because she didn't put me in her suitcase and take me. But she
can't be everywhere.
But she came. I called her last night because Jason, we wanted to make sure that we get the word out, and so people know this is going on. No, thank you all, and Mr. Davis, we're going to connect that, and we're going to see what we're going to do. It doesn't matter who gets the credit.
Nobody. All of us have called the ceasefire.
Yes,
everybody.
Yes, ma'am.
Is calling
it makes sense. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you,
Mr. Davis.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Henderson. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, we are thankful to you, and please thank President Jack Young of the City Council for making you available to us and for your patience. And you sat here. A lot of times they come, I got to go. I don't know to be making stuff up. They just be trying to get off their air because they get hot.
I wish I could have stayed longer. I mean, I definitely appreciate it, and you got some of the best callers around, so I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. All right, you be well. We'll maybe see you this afternoon.
You need to come on.
Come on in the lines, then.
Come on in the lines. then sometimes we might even just schedule just to come in, so because people want to know, they feel better when they're talking to the principals, right. You know, and the people that are. All right, God bless. Have a great day, sir.
You too.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye. All right, we are done there. I want to. Do you take him off the air there for me? All right, he's gone. Let me see. We got Eric next. Eric, welcome to Patrick Henderson's Meet the People. You have a question or comment, sir?
Oh, man, how y'all doing?
We're good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, man, I wish I could have got a question in with the brother. I was going to ask him. I wanted him to ask the last caller question in reference to the police. How was they going to show the community with all these police doing corrupt things as they are, that they not going to be planting guns on a lot of
we did pose that question. Yeah, we did.
Yeah. And so my thing is this, right? When I used to be in the streets back in the day, we already know a lot of the things that we was doing was going to either result in a life sentence, or if you prosecuted by the feds, the death penalty. That didn't prohibit a lot of us who was living the drug trade in Baltimore City in the 80s and the 90s to stop doing what we was doing. Some cases, you know, the death penalty, to the moratorium in Maryland. So, and they saying now they want to put this bill in effect for what was it? Anybody who be caught with a firearm. All right. So they already have said, right, Wayno? They already said that it's a small portion of people in Baltimore City that's committing these crimes, and they repeat offenders. Repeat offenders. But you want to put a law in effect that's going to affect everybody. So grandma that's in the house that's scared to death because these little young hoodlums running amok, and she's scared to death, so she got her little 22. And she might go to the grocery store. Or grandpa, how many older people we seen, Wayno, y'all, last year that was assaulted by young people who now they might carry their little 38, you know, because they're afraid. And I think that's what that's the ones who gonna be affected the most. Trust me, criminals ain't worried about that.
Of course not.
A year, 5 years, life, double life. If you in that trade, man, you ain't worried about doing. Look, I could do a year on lockup, doing jumping jack straight. I mean, so they I don't know if they actually think these things through. Look, the average person go to city jail doing 4, 6 to 8 months before they go up to trial. If you give me 1 year, by the time I get that sentence, I'm on my way home. So it don't make sense. It's like, what are you doing?
And that's the importance, big brother, of bringing in folks from the ground, because they have not experienced that life. They don't know nothing about it. So they just coming up with things that they think is right. You know what I mean? So they got So and if you got a brother, see, the thing is, they fail to realize that when you send one of these young brothers to jail, like Boone talked about, his brother went to jail 16. That made him more of a vicious criminal. That made him more of a gangster. It made him more of a thug. Because now you got to survive as a 16-year-old in a jail with a whole bunch of grown killers. You see what I'm saying? So now they'll turn around and then send this young brother back to the street. You see what I mean? So go ahead, big brother.
Prison is a world within its own. It's hard. I'm talking about you have to be insane to exist in an insane environment. You bring that same mentality back to the street. And when you come home and you see there's no hope, you see everything that's going on, having nothing changed, and you in that same predicament you was before you left the street, you're going to do the same thing you've done
repeat
all
what
over
you
again.
know. You repeat what you know.
Exactly. And my thing is that this law isn't going to prevent anybody. Dudes will laugh at that. Oh, I'm only facing a year. That's nothing. I mean, seriously, I think the people that's going to be affected, man, is these sisters that want to protect themselves. You know, sometimes they might carry a gun. They ain't go through the proper channels of getting, you know, it legalized and all that. But they might walk down the street at night when they get off the bus because they feel afraid and got an illegal gun that one of their family members might have gave.
And that's what I was just about to say. Most of the time in our community, when it's somebody like that, it's some gun that was passed down in your family. You know what I'm saying? My father had guns that his grandfather had. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not realistic to me to put a mandatory system. You know, it's only going to affect a certain group of people.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, big brother.
So much. We appreciate you.
And we hope to have Congresswoman Waters on soon. That she's talking about. Again, she's one of the biggest advocates against mandatory sentencing. And again, so is a lot of folks in the National Black Caucus. So we really should be looking at what the national model should be. The national model is to get away from these minimum sentences.
Yes, sir.
We're going to go to Diane. Lady Di, is that you?
Yes, it is. How y'all guys?
Sister Queen.
We're welcome.
How y'all guys doing?
Good. You're welcome.
Thank you. I wish I got on with Davis, because I'm going to say, just like this last caller, I am not for this law. And I would like for us all to be down there at the city council meeting.
At 5:30?
That's tonight.
At today. Because the more people out there that are against, and believe me, white people are going to be there. Believe me, because they love their guns. And you're going to put this in place? I mean, come on now. I mean, you say illegal guns. You don't talk about, until the Baltimore City and across the United States get on these people that guns have been stolen out their house and they don't report it to the police. See, that's our problem. We don't tell the truth. And it's not documented with the police. Their house been broken in, and sometimes they forget, they tell all what's missing, but then they forget, or even they don't know that gun is missing until the police is left, but then they don't report it. And then it comes to our community. And I heard someone said about BWI. Not only BWI, talk about the trains and people coming with in their cars and stuff. So it's a Maryland thing, and we got to come with a plan, because the city government don't have a plan. They're not going to have a plan. Okay, the police department is not going to have a plan. And, and they say they have a plan. Why you haven't rolled out the plan? This is not the first time we have over 300 murders. It started back in the 70s under Schaefer, and if we had got it then and snapped it, we wouldn't be having this. We had fluctuations. I'm not going to say we have fluctuation, because it's statistics. It's about statistics. They go up and they go down. So who controls the statistics? People are going to say the computers. No, because a human being put the stuff in the computer.
Feeds the information.
So they put what they want to put in that computer, and then they spit it out and tell us, and then we sit here and believe that they say, okay, crime was down under O'Malley. No, it wasn't. It was not down. It was. We had so many illegal arrests. We focused on that. We didn't focus on the crime. So the crime was up under O'Malley. Crime was up under Sheila Dixon. Stephanie Rollins breaks it. We know that. But here's the thing about it.
Hurry up, Di. Come quickly.
Okay, the police department, their union had told them two years ago to sit on it after Freddie Gray, and they've been doing it, because you don't even see them around that often in the neighborhood. So we have to get out in the streets and start walking the streets, the men.
Yes, that's my thing, sister. Yes.
Auxiliary police died. Thank you so much. Community organization. That's what we got to do. We got to de-escalate.
But
everything is about escalate. That's what I'm saying. That's where the auxiliary piece of police are going to come in. They're going to come and walk the streets, get to know the families, get to know the community, get to know the young people in the community, have resources for them there, and do it in conjunction with the MTA, the college police departments, and stuff, and take all this overtime pay that's taking money away from our schools. See, they're not slick. We see what the plan is here, and we're not going to stand for it. We got Richard on line 2. Richard, come quickly. I'm sorry. We only have a couple of seconds left. What do you have, a comment or a statement? What do you have?
It's only me, Mr. Henderson.
Hey, Richard Terry.
Bro.
Well, here's the thing. Juvenile facilities are called gladiator schools. And the penitentiaries are nothing more than graduate schools. What we're seeing now is the beginning of political season, and this new law is nothing more than a political con job that they're hoping everybody's going to buy into. Everybody knows that these young people who are engaged in criminal activity, as the other gentleman said, could care less. It's just the cost of losing their doing business. And then if they do get arrested, so what? They'll be in the same place with their family and friends, so why should they care?
Interesting.
So it's not going to work. It's a feel-good piece. It's just something there to placate the masses, and and there are too many of us that are buying it.
Yes. Daryl, did you have something to say to Mr. Terry? Oh, Mr. Terry is helping us, is working with us with the auxiliary police. idea. He was the progenitor and the organizer and the man that helped to create the program that was very successful here in Baltimore with the auxiliary police. And he's going to be working with us and helping. In fact, Wayne, I didn't tell you the other day, they heard him on the radio and he got a call. Was it from Anne Arundel County? They want you to come.
This not Anne Arundel, this is going all the way up in Perryville.
They're calling him, wanting him to come set them up.
They heard him on the show.
Okay, exactly. And come to find out that New York City has 3,000 auxiliary policemen. So this is nothing new. Has been tried and it has been proved. And you proved it here and saved the city millions of dollars in overtime pay. So thank you, Richard Terry, for this. And we're going to be talking with you. I talked to Senator Young. I've talked to Sharon Middleton. I've talked to several other city council people. We're getting ready to present this because they don't have a clue. They really don't. You see what they're offering up, stuff that we know does not work.
And unfortunately, the gentleman that worked for Mr. Young's office.
Yes, Mr. Davis, yes.
Guess what?
What?
Jack Young knew when they destroyed the unit. We went to him for assistance, and it never happened. We were just ignored.
With the auxiliary, when they disbanded your organization?
When they dismantled it, we went to him. In writing and by email and the whole 9 yards, and just like most of the city council people, if you bring something to them, most of them just ignore you because they look at you as a peon anyway.
Well, maybe he gonna have a different attitude this time.
Yes, sir.
Maybe he didn't need you, didn't think he needs you, but we know that you were doing a fantastic job. We will be in touch, and thank you again, Mr. Terry, for all that you do and for your brilliance. And trust me, we're working on it, man. We're gonna hook this thing up, and we are going to City Hall, and we're going to give them an informational debriefing, and they're going to know that this is the only possibility that for working for success. Thank you again, Mr. Terry.
Take care, Mr. Henderson.
You too, sir.
You know, and the mayor wants to tout other cities and wants to tout New York, and again, she talks about New York has tougher bills, but New York didn't curb their gun violence through this. We know that New York had some very egregious issues with stop and frisk. And that's how they were trying to curb a lot of the violence. So they were actually violating constitutional rights
to do it.
So
if Blumberg had not been for it, he could have been the president. That killed his chances of being, because he was for the stop and frisk when they proved that it was not only unconstitutional and slanted and profiling. He still, so otherwise I think Bloomberg would have been the president of the United States because he sure had the money. Bubby, how are you? Come quickly, sir.
Thank you much. I know I don't have too much time, but let me say, I'm against it. I think everybody, our politicians are trying to protect the police. Make them do their job in a legal fashion, and we all can live in safety.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, sir. Amen. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. We've got a young man here who is diligently working in the community in so many capacities. Mr. Darrell, well, how are you today, sir?
I'm good. How are you? How you guys doing?
We're doing great. You sat here the whole time, and he's been real quiet and stuff. You got an event coming up. You want to tell us about it?
Yes, so we're having an event on July 29th. It's called the Positive Charge Pool Party. So we want to get the city youth out of the city for one day and show them a little bit of what they've been missing. You know, because I think y'all made a good point by saying that, you know, some of these youth programs and the nonprofits, they need funding. They need they need to get these children in and train them for these jobs because we're killing them, expose them, because we're killing their confidence and their spirit by not teaching them these things. So when they go out to these jobs and they're getting fired or they're not following all the way through, we know that their spirit is getting broken. So we're teaching them music production, video production, and we're teaching them how to perform and, you know, perform their music and stuff like that, so they can, you know, be on the course to opening up their own business in the creative arts, which is a lot of things that they're missing right now. You know, they opening their minds, opening their soul, opening their heart. You know, and also touching their parents too. We have specific things up there that, you know, geared to the parents. You know,
and where's it going to be?
It's going to be in Ellicott City at Roger Carter Community Center.
Roger Carter Community Center. At what time? 5 to
7:30.
And what is the address?
The address, I don't know.
Okay, the Roger Carter Community Center. You can Google that.
But it's a pool concert, family. You know what I mean? Pool party.
But it's gonna be rock climbing, wall climbing, all sorts of things.
Open pool, sprinkler system for the little children.
Is there a charge?
There's a $10 charge for everybody, and of course, you know, if if we also have discounted tickets, so you can get them for $5. We'll be selling them at the door.
If they bring a group, you'll give a special discount for that.
Of course.
Roger Carter,
youth programs.
Community Center on July the 29th.
July the 29th.
Okay, Wayne, your mom sent me a text. She wants me to remind you all that there's a big food giveaway tomorrow at Liberty Grace Church of God at 3400 Copley Road off Liberty at 10 a.m. Y'all need to go.
Yes.
Excellent food, the best meats, the best vegetables, and they're giving to it. And if you don't need
free,
it,
y'all.
you don't need it, don't get it, but your neighbor might need it and can't get there. We got to cover each other, you all. We got to cover each other. And remember to join us again. Jason, did you have something?
Just wanted to let the family know, breaking news, they caught the second killer to Warren Brown's stepson.
Oh, wow.
Of course they did.
You heard that right here.
You did. Breaking news. Thank you. You've been listening to Patrick Henderson's Meet the People on WLB 1010 Baltimore. Say goodbye, Wayne.
Peace. Love your family.
Say goodbye, Jason.
Love your family.
Daryl, thank you for coming, and for all of our guests today. We thank you for doing it.
Peace to all the family.
Peace be all. Thanks you, China. Y'all have a blessed day. We'll see you next and hear you next Sunday at 3:30 on Spirit 1400. God bless. Have a great one.
The next time you go.
WOLB Baltimore, a Radio 1 station where information is power.
If you've fallen behind on your taxes, you know the IRS is already coming for their money, and they'll get it too by garnishing your wages or maybe even taking your home or business. They call it enforced compliance, and you'd better watch out because the penalties and interest compound daily, making it seem impossible to ever get out of debt. You need to call the experts at Optima Tax Relief. Solving tax issues is all they do. One call to Optima starts the process to stop the demand letters and stop aggressive collection actions. They get to work immediately, fighting to protect your assets and helping you put your tax problems behind you. The IRS writes off millions every year, and Optima knows all the ins and outs of the IRS's tax assistance programs that could